So today I would like to show you a few ways you can easily and quickly add movement to your sounds. This is very much inspired by a hardware module I use all the time, the voltage block. As always, I added also the ideas from this video to the PDF of tips and tricks I keep on updating. It's available on my Patreon together with the project file from this video and from many other videos. I want to quickly show you the workflow with the voltage block and how easy it is to add movement and variation. We have 8 sequences, each of them can be up to 16 steps. So let's really start. I have here a sort of a percussive or a kick drum or something like this, a percussive voice. Right, so now for example I can take channel 1, randomize it, and I have a sequence of 16 steps just like this very easily. And I can use this to control, for example, the envelope. Right, I can have also, let's say, sequence 2, again, randomize it, but in this case I would like it to have, let's say, just 7 steps. So now you can see we have just 7 steps, and again, I have already the values. I don't have to enter any values. This will randomize the values for me. This I will use to modulate the pitch envelope. Right, so again, we have here 16 steps. And we have here 7 steps. Right, this is also going through a low pass filter, so I can take another channel, let's say in this case have it just 5 steps. Right, but also I can have it run with a divided clock, so I can divide this by 2, for example. Right, and now it will run slower, and again it's already, if I just randomize things, it's already full with values that I can then use to modulate the cutoff of this low pass filter. Right, so we have even more movement. Right, I can use also even another one, let's say channel 4, randomize things, and in this case let it run in pendulum mode. Right, so it will run forward and then in reverse. Again, really quickly, really easily. This will modulate, let's say, the resonance of this filter. Right, so we have even more movement. I have also a simple bass here. Right, so again I can use another sequence, let's say sequence 5, randomize it, let's have a length of 15 steps, I don't know why, just for fun. Again, it's really easy just to create sequences. And it's also really easy to create melodies with it. Right, so I'm just going to use another sequence here, again, just randomize it. In this case, let's go again with 7 steps. Right, and this I will use to sequence the pitch. Right, the pitch of another oscillator. Right, I can also, let's say, randomize this again. Right, so again, now we have also a pitch sequence, and again I can use this also to modulate things, let's say with 9, 10, 11, 12 steps, let's say, to modulate the timbre here of this oscillator. Right, so again, really easy. We have up to 8 sequences, each up to 16 steps with clock divisions. You just randomize things. I can also actually just move the slider and then it will sort of set the knobs for me or set the values for me. Right, so this is also quite this is also quite useful. So again, really a really fun workflow here, and you can really easily create all sorts of different variations and movements in your sounds. So the main idea here is to use the steps modulator in Bitwig, and we can do this in various ways. The first way is to use the project tab, right, and have the effect on the whole project, right? If we open the modulators, we can just add the steps here, and then we can change the number of steps, just like on the voltage block, the direction, right? We can change even the speed. So in this case, for example, I will change this to 16th notes. I will clear what I have here, right? And then we can duplicate this. So we have basically 8, right? So here we have 6, 7, and 8, right? So now we have 8 sequences, just like on the voltage block, each one with its own parameters. And by the way, you can also save a project template with this simple setup and have a voltage block in all of your projects, right? So here, for example, I have a hi-hat. Right, and I can use, for example, the first sequence here to modulate or to control or to sequence the decay. I can take the decay all the way up again and then set the modulator to control the decay. And just like on the voltage block, just randomize things. Right, for example, I can set this to 10 steps. I don't even have to worry about the modulation depth. I can just modulate all the way. And then here we have amplitude control. Right, if this is a bit too much for me, right? So now we have sequencing or modulation for 10 steps really easily. Just like with the voltage block, you change the length, you randomize things, and you add more movement. Right, we can do the same, for example, with the frequency of the FM. Again, I will just take it all the way down. I will open here the second modulator, map it, and then let's leave it at 16 and just randomize this. All right, so again, we have more movement. This can work also with the attack time. Right, in this case, let's have, let's say 7 steps, but it will move also, run twice as slow. So instead of 16th notes, we have 8th notes. Right, and again, just control the attack, and again, randomize things. Control the level. Right, maybe something like this. Right, again, we have more movement. And again, this is in the project tab, so we can control things like panning as well. If I open another one, I can set it to be bipolar, randomize it, right, and then just use it for the panning of the hi-hats here. Right, again, it's in the project tab. We can also control, for example, the send reverb, right, with another one. So let's say 12 steps, and in this case, it will be quarter notes, right? So 4 times as slow. Right, and now, just like on the voltage block, instead of randomizing things, I can just do something like this. Right, and then map this, of course, to the reverb, send. Right, and again, also here I can change the level a bit. Right, so you can see how easy it is just, again, to add movement variation, just like with the voltage block. You add the steps modulator in the project tab, and you can control whatever you want inside the project, if it's one voice, if it's the mixer, if it's sound effects, and so on and so forth. Another way we can do something similar is with the chain device. So here I have a melody line with a polymer synthesizer here. Right, and now I can just add the chain device and place the synthesizer inside of the chain, and then here add the steps modulator, right, and then modulate whatever I want inside the synthesizer. But the nice thing here, if I remove this for a second, is that you can just save this as a preset and have sorts of multiple voltage block modules whenever you want them. So again, instead of adding the chain, I have this already saved as a preset called voltage block, right? And you can see it's loaded in this case with 9, just because it looks better, 9 sequences. But again, it's important that the synthesizer will be inside of the chain, and then you can just load it whenever you need this for different synthesizers, for different sounds, for different devices, right? And then you can again just modulate things. So for example, I can modulate here the decay Right, if I take this all the way up, let's say with 7 steps, right, something like this. In this case, also with the project tab, but with the steps here, something you cannot do with the voltage block. You can also name things so you know exactly what is what. Right, if you want to name the different modulation, let's also do this, do one, let's say with 16 steps for the filter. Right, we can also add slew. Right, we can also add slew to this. Right, so this is also quite interesting. Let's add also another one, let's say with 10 steps, and it will run slower, half speed. Right, again, randomizing so easily just to add movement and experiment with things. This, I didn't want this here. Right, and experiment with things, maybe even another one. And you know what, in this case, let's say that we draw something for the noise. Right, so again, like this, you can add movement and variation with the chain device and just save this as a preset and load it to any instruments you want to use. And again, we can use this also for pitch if we use the grid. I have here just a simple sine oscillator through an envelope. And to get the same functionality in the grid, of course, we can use the steps module. Right, also here we can change the length, we can randomize things, right, again, to get quick results, just like with the voltage block. And in this case, again, because we are using this for pitch, I'm using the pitch scaler and the pitch quantize. So this will go to the pitch input here on the sine wave. And I have also a gate or a trigger sequencer just to trigger this voice. Right, and again, we can change the length. In this case, for example, I would like to have a length of 10 steps. And with the grid, how it works, we need to use something like the transport module. There are other ways of doing this. In this case, I'm just going to use the transport module. So this, instead of the internal phase, we will use the transport. Right, and then the sequence we can change to 10 steps. In this case, also the gate sequence I will change. Right, and then instead of 16th notes, we have 10 16th notes. So we have now a sequence of 10 steps. And again, we can also use this for modulation inside of the grid. Again, also adding, as you can see, slew to everything. So here, for example, I have a 11-step sequence that will change will sequence the fold. And then we have here panning with 8 steps. Right, and then another one for the decay with 16 steps. Right, something like this. Right, so again, this can work also for modulation, not just for pitch, if you want to use it just in the grid. Again, randomizing things, changing length and so on. I have here another voice. You can also do this polyphonically, of course, with another sequence, just with 7 steps. Right, the gate sequence in this case has a different length with 14 steps. Then I have here filter sequencing or modulation, again at half speed with 8 notes. 21 step. On the voltage block we have up to 16 steps, but here we can use even longer sequences. And then again a decay sequence or a sequence to modulate the decay with 16 steps. Right, so again you can very easily add movement and variation with the same workflow as the voltage block module. I will add other voices to this. Again, thank you for watching. Cheers!